Good morning. Welcome to OG Foundation, capital of the sovereign state of Lothium. This is Castle Stark here. The stone structure from the citadel to this wall, all the way over to there, then it connects all the way over to there. It is Wednesday morning. This is the before video. All the animals, the chickens and the cows are all sounding off. And the first goal for today is to take the forms off of the back side of this wall, which I tried to do. Last time I tried to do was a complete failure, but I'm going to do it in a different way, and hopefully that works. Here's what that looks like with the form removed. That's what I meant to do yesterday, but I did it all wrong. Yesterday I started trying to remove this form from there, which was like the weakest point, and it was so stupid. And today I took that apart by pulling from the bottom where it was strongest. And then once it starts disengaging from the staples in one place, it's easier to pull it off. And so that's all good. So the first batch will be backing all of this, and that'll make this whole section really solid. It'll be a fun one. So that was after the first coat over there. Now I took these forms off. So between those, taking those off, and then taking that one off in the front, and then that new one on there, the whole turn there can basically get double-sided, like fully cemented. And then I can see about taking the next forms off. After batch 2 on Wednesday, that final hole is covered, and I'm doing some stuff down there so that kind of area acts like a gutter. I gotta slope it so it goes a little bit further back in there for the gutter, and then I'll end up having to cover these tires as well. But and then I also got good coverage on that little step thing there, which will be good. My latest idea is using this floor joist up there as a form to make a Ferrocement, maybe it would be called a bond beam. I've got rebar pinned to the top and the bottom of the channel of the I-beam, with then lath around it. So I'm going to mortar up the whole side of it, and then later on I'll try to take off the I-beam from the far side without ruining the mortar section I do. So this was the shape that I ended up with, so I just bent that piece of rebar that was sticking out up, and then it makes kind of that angle here. And then if I can get this in place and it doesn't fall, the big challenge will get it to bond right there at the peak of the arch. That's going to be the big challenge, to get that to bond and to not break when I try to take the I-beam off. But I'm going to get a batch of mortar on this and see how it goes. Hopefully it doesn't fall. So here's what that looks like after it has cement on it. Looks pretty solid, and that's just one coat. So I'll do 2 if not 3 coats before trying to take the form off, and probably do some sort of extra reinforcement over there where it bonds with that structure, because that'll be the big weakness that might give way when I try to pull the form. But I'm really happy with how this turned out. This is pretty much level, and it performs the function of leaving an opening to go up here, though eventually that might get filled, and then the wall can continue towards that corner. I am now out of lath. I'm almost out of rebar. I only have a couple pieces left from that bulk order of rebar and the last big thing of lath. So I need to resupply so that I can carry on. But I'll probably do at least 1 batch in the morning on this before I go resupply. The barbarians have retreated. I've driven them back, and they did a good job eating all of the vegetation here, eating back all the burdocks, clearing out everything other than the hazelnuts and the berry bushes. There's some well-trained barbarian landscapers. In the meantime, I went out on a supply run and managed to get out of Home Depot, spending less than $1,000, which is a bit of a surprise. But I got rebar, I got lath, 20 pieces of lath, 23 pieces of rebar, some remesh, and 12 more things of Portland, loaded up with building supplies. Thursday evening after the resupply trip, and I've gotten a second floor joist on top of the first floor joist, set back about a 1/2 inch. so that I can put plywood on it for forms. So right here, I took that form off from over there and put it over here. And now that resupplied, I got more lath. So I got this lath, which will round the corner once I can mortar it all in. And then when it rounds the corner, it'll add a lot of support for this whole area here. And so that is much less likely to tip with this big support up top. So I'm gonna go kind of slowly. This is a big first step, and it's kind of late in the day, but I think I have enough time for one batch to get coverage on all this and those exposed forms, and maybe a little bit more. 3 buckets into my second batch of the day, the last one of the day. I decided to put that second piece of plywood up there, which, mind you, was very difficult. I actually thought I could do it. I failed because of the angles and how heavy that is, and I ended up putting up a 2x4 vertically on this side to kind of guide it in, and then I was able to like hold it from the top side and get it in there. But anyways, the form is set, another piece of lath up, and got some mortar on it. And it's kind of flimsy right now. Luckily there's no wind. Hopefully the wind doesn't pick up. But the more I can get on it, the more solid it'll be. And then when I can round that corner there, that's when everything is really going to get solid. But it's a difficult challenge to get around the corner. Even to get to the corner is a challenge. But the way that I did this, it'll make it so I can use the last section of form I have over there, the 2x4 one. And I can put that there to get another 4 feet. And well on my way. I just hope there's not a lot of wind to break these forms before I can get it all rocked into place. That's all for today. Happy 4th of July. Friday morning, I got 4 more of these floor joists from this 20-foot long floor joists. They used to be 40 feet, but they got cut in half. But they were excess from a build. So I'm going to use these 4 to help me to get from the left side to the corner where the other ones end, and rounding that corner and then bonding to the top of that arch is going to be very essential for the structural integrity of getting this whole wall in place. Well, that was an incredible amount of prep for one batch of mortar, which is also very difficult to apply. But there is some coverage of mortar from that corner to the top of the peak. And then there's rebar in that form as well, top and bottom. And the bottom piece of rebar in that form bends around and then connects with the form down there. I can't actually round the corner because there's wood sticking out on both sides, or coming from both angles. But that rebar, if that's cemented in on both sides, which it's not cemented in on the right side and it's just got to start over there, that can help to support both structures when they're both, or both walls when they're both mortared together. And they'll all have to get pretty well mortared in before I can take any of those forms off. And hopefully I did it all in such a way that I'll be able to take the forms off without too much trouble when that time comes. But for now, I gotta start on the connection between those 2 points, the corner and the peak. Figured out a lot of rebar stuff and got some more lath coverage on that and some more on the other side to kind of like reinforce that corner. So it's all coming together slowly but surely. You can't see the bird, but it's about to jump out. Oh, there you see it. It set up its nest in the top of the flagpole underneath the tin can. There's that birdie. Ooh, got another branch. So Saturday morning I got this corner mostly lathed up. There's one piece of remesh in there to help make the corner. And I can mortar up a decent amount of that in one coat, as well as all the way up there, kind of reinforcing that bond beam. And then this one over here, getting a second coat, will make it basically structural as opposed to just kind of holding itself up now. So it'll transform the look of it quite a bit after the next batch, I think, after working on this part. Sunday morning, it rained all day yesterday, but at the end of the day I was able to get one batch of mortar on, and then it ended up raining like heavily 2 hours later. So I was worried that everything I did was going to get washed out. but at least that part and that part there doesn't seem to have gotten washed out too much. But I'm gonna survey the damage and then get to another batch of mortar. It looks like a good day today for several batches of mortar. Here's what it looks like from this side. Getting another piece of rebar. So this is the third piece of rebar that'll be going horizontally to support the wall. It's a little tricky around the corner. I'm going to try to keep 3 pieces of rebar horizontally throughout the whole thing for its bond bearing capacity. So this is one way I'll sort of just add rebar to the outside sometimes. So just take a few batches to integrate it all. So even the areas over here that I thought were more exposed, though I did get that rain cover over a good bit of it. Right before it really came down, I got this one thing up, which probably protected a good bit of it, but overall there was very minimal damage from the rainstorm last night, which is great because I was thinking it was going to be a complete washout. So this piece of rebar around this corner is what is really tying it into this structure, and so both of these eye joists that are supporting the bond beams, they have support on either end and then to the middle of each arch, but they haven't really bonded at the corner where they meet. So that's part of the goal today, is to try to figure out how to get them together. So after the second batch on Sunday, I have a bond up there between that top bond beam and that vertical rectangle, which is also connected to the arch on its bottom over here. And then that is more connected up there. And then similarly over here, there's a couple initial strands of mortar that are connecting that are getting across the middle from the left to the right with that mortar in the middle. So I'm going to do one more batch, and hopefully this next one is going to fill in a lot of these gaps and provide a bit better coverage and work that piece of rebar in. See how it goes. That's Cass. Cass is a boy. These are the 9 chicks that were all born this year. From, let's see if I can do all the names from, if they'll stop moving, from right to left. We have Duniger, Gala, Dawn, Barbecue, Latte, Bangare, Cass, Gendel, Penelope, and there's one more, I think. Duniger is over here. Oh no, I already got Duniger. They're just starting to get vocal and they're exploring more. So after the third batch, it's really starting to come together, and I've got pretty good coverage on the whole kind of like front connector. You can just still sort of see through part of it, but with another couple coats I can start to think about taking the some of those forms off. I'll be ready for that form to come off, that insulation form to come off now or tomorrow, and maybe one of the big ones tomorrow. We'll see. Here's what this area in the corner looks like on this side. Tomorrow it should be dried enough where I can get down in that hole and then take those forms off and then mortar all of that from the inside. So then after that is done, then there's probably enough support in that to start removing forms. And I'm pretty sure the sequence is that I take off that PT 2x4 right there first, so that this joist holds itself by the cement below. And then once that's out, I should be able to pull the entire wall all as one, those 2 joists and those things, pull them back all as one from the other wall. So before I do that, I just need to make sure that all of that is solid. So it'll probably be the day after tomorrow that I'm able to pull those off, assuming there's a good day of mortar for all this tomorrow. I'll probably get that front and back tomorrow if I can. Monday morning, I got that form removed so I can get that back side, and then all the forms down in this corner area got removed on those 2 ones and then that big one. It's a little hard to see, but this coat is going to make a huge difference being able to plaster up the majority of the inside of that corner, which will make all the difference for having all the structural support necessary to take that form off. And it's got pretty good support over here. I took this form off over here as well. Not quite sure if you can see. And at some point today I might put a second floor joist on top of this, but I'm not entirely sure about that. But starting off, covering up those forms, and that is going to make that corner pretty darn solid. Before I can get started on the next batch of mortar, got a sand delivery, so we'll surely be all set for sand for the rest of this year, and probably a good bit into next year. And the lens was super foggy, but for the inside shot. But here you can see like where this is at right now on the outside, and I got this that final 2x4 form off after cutting it loose, cutting a screw. And then this corner here is just about completely mortared with that that little corner piece with the bond beam, so that will really secure that, so that form could come off, but I'll probably put another one on before I take it off, and take the other one off first. But sand check, time for mortar. So extra prep before batch 2. I got a second eye joist up there, another line of rebar, and then that lath stapled up, and then another line of rebar here, as well as a line of rebar up at the top to make sure that there's a minimum of 3 going all the way around without any breaks. So ready for another batch of mortar. It's a hot one. So by the end of the day on Monday, after 3 batches, that new rebar line I got up on the top floor joist is all mortared in. This corner piece is pretty much solid with lots of connecting and anchoring in this form, and then I got a bunch more on this wall because the goal is tomorrow, either in the morning or maybe at the end of the day tomorrow, to pull the form off of that entire wall there. And so there's a rebar up top that got mortared in, and then there's a rebar that's just kind of like pinned against the wall with a 2x4, which is, it's mortared in, but it's not totally encased by mortar. But so a lot of mortar today, and it is really looking a lot better. And the one thing I haven't figured out is the crenellation pattern up top as far as the height of it and whatnot, but I'll probably be figuring that out tomorrow. That's all for today. So after the morning batch on Tuesday, I got enough on to the point where I started taking the forms off. I felt comfortable about taking the forms off. So I started off by taking that 2x4 out like I mentioned. And then I'm trying to pull this eye joist out, but it's kind of getting stuck a little bit around there. Obviously I don't want to break anything. So I figured, just in case I break everything, I'll at least give you a shot of what this looks like right now. So I'm considering just mortaring up what I have exposed before like pulling on it any harder to try to get it out. But I'm probably going to try to pull on it at least once more. But it looks so good, it would be a shame if I pulled it apart. I ended up having to rip apart half of the eye joist so that the plywood basically got separated from the thing up to there for at least half of it. But the wall is still intact, and therefore I'm a happy camper. I've got extras of these recycled things, and I don't really mind losing part of one. And so now I'm going to prep that, and before I think about taking off the next forms, I'm going to get some more mortar, especially on the back of right there where it makes the connection with the arch underneath, to really stabilize that. So the next mortar is all go on the back of this thing. So it's the end of the day, Tuesday. That's it for today. Got 2 batches in. The rain keeps coming on and off, but most of the stuff that I put up is kind of protected from the rain, like that bond beam right there. So the 20-foot bond beam is solid, bears the weight, and it is cemented into place, and it's got the first coat on the backing of it. It'll just need a little bit more to fill in the kind of like wider part of the wood where the the eye joist kind of indentation is. There's one on the bottom and the top. But that turned out really well, except for that this one broke. But that's alright. And I doubt that the other ones will break. But maybe tomorrow I'll be able to take off more forms over here and figure out this crenellation pattern finally. It's a huge decision point that I'm having a lot of trouble with, to figure out this crenellation pattern, if it should step down or if it should stay consistent. Right now everything is kind of lined up and lathed up so that it steps down, so that's the easy thing to do. So that's what I'll probably do. So for the last video of the week, I'll give you a plum update. This one is so packed with them that I've been harvesting them already. Because sometimes if there's so many, you want to thin them out, and they're already pretty good for eating. They're already sweet. So I've already started eating several plums a day. It's the only way to accomplish harvesting this entire tree without making preserves. That's all for this week. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next week.